And success means something different to everybody.
Yes.
So you cannot, they talk about comparing yourself with others, imposter syndrome. No, I'm not good enough. I'm not doing what they're doing. Well, you're not supposed to do what someone else does. You're supposed to do what you do. And that's the important thing. And I never really started comparing myself to others till I saw others comparing themselves to others. And I don't know why I thought I needed to. And it's like, okay, I need to stop. This is not productive. And it's not.
It's not.
So you have to define right away what is going to be success.
Welcome to the Minute Mastery Podcast, a conversational productivity and time management podcast where busy authors and entrepreneurs are inspired to create time for what truly matters. I'm your host, Ngozi Edema. I'm a time management coach, writer, and entrepreneur. Here, you are encouraged to turn your minutes into milestones and to create at least 1 hour a day working on your goals without feeling overwhelmed. When a child goes to school for the very first time, we often talk about how we feel. Mama's daycare was born from that quiet moment when Mama is suddenly left alone and a little helper is gone. In this story, we meet Nene, a bright, imaginative little girl who is excited to start kindergarten. But then she begins to worry. What will her mama do all day without her? So Nene does what children do best. She imagines a solution. She creates a daycare just for Mama, right across the street from her school, filled with fun, comforting activities to keep Mama happy until they are together again. This book is an invitation for parents and children to talk about separation, about worries, about change, and about how love doesn't disappear when routines change. Mama's Daycare helps spark imagination, build empathy, open gentle conversations about big transitions. It's a story for children starting school and for the mamas learning to let go. Just a little. I hope this book becomes a comforting read for your family during this season of change. Mama's Daycare is available in the Kindle store and on paperback cover. Today's conversation is one that will resonate deeply with anyone who is creating, leading, or simply trying to live with intention. My guest, LS Kirkpatrick, an accomplished author of more than 45 books, a leadership coach, and a passionate advocate for helping people lead well and live with purpose. With such an expansive body of work, LS brings a rare combination of creativity, discipline, and heart to everything she does. So today we are going to be talking about creativity without burnout, leadership beyond titles, and how everyday choices can shape the outcome we get. We are welcome to the Minute Mastery podcast, LS.
I'm so glad to be here. I just
Thanks
love
for
your smile.
coming.
You've got one of the best smiles.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming. I'm so honored that you took time to come here. So you've authored more than 45 books.
Right,
I know
right.
how difficult it is to do just one book, and you have done 45. That's a lot for anyone. How do you stay creative and productive without burning out with all the work that goes behind the scenes with writing?
Well, I think the first thing I have to say is not all of them are my books. Some of them are anthologies for I've written a chapter in a book, but half of them are mine. I've done it in about 3 years. And the way I can do that is because if anybody has seen the movie Sister Act,
Yeah.
and at one point she says, if you want to be a writer, you get up, nothing you can think of is except, how does she say that? If you wake up and all you can think about is writing, then you're a writer. So I think that's what happened. But it started with my grandkids. Well, it might have started when I was younger and I love to write, but I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't have confidence that I could write, and there are so many things to do in the world, so I did other things first. once I started writing for my grandkids, it really gave me a purpose. And I think that's what you need with writing. You need to have a purpose. Why are you writing? Are you doing it just for yourself? Which is great. A lot of people write in their journals and then they turn those journals into books. But really think you need a purpose. And once you find that purpose, boy, there's just no stopping you.
Wow, thank you. So your grandchildren were your inspiration for writing.
Yes. Yeah. I would tell them stories and they'd want the same story again. Well, I didn't know what I said the last time because I just made them up. So here's a hint for all you grandparents or aunties out there or babysitters. Tell them a story that you're familiar with. Like for me, I use children's fairy tales, only I would use their name and some of the things they liked. That way it was easy to tell the story again. Maybe not exactly the same way, but at least you're still telling the similar story again. And they loved that. And then I started writing down some of the stories I wrote to them and we moved. And so it was really hard to just tell them a story over the phone. I wasn't around them all the time. I had to guess at some of the things they were doing. So I thought, I'm going to write stories that I know they like these certain things. And then I would give it to them. I'd put them in a little book and I would send it to them. I would keep one book so we could read it together. And then I would send them a book. And then they loved it because it had things that they loved, but it was totally imagination. I mean, it was just some crazy things that I would come up with. Um, but one of the stories I wrote, my daughter, a friend of hers, did the illustrations for me. Absolutely wonderful artist. She asked me to never ask her to do those again because it's not her type of artistry that she does, but she did wonderful. And so that was really the first children's book I published, which is Writing Frogs in the Backyard. And it was such a fun, beautiful little book, only just a few things. I mean, it was just talking about the grandkids playing frogs in the backyard. And my son-in-law would bring tadpoles home from the puddles at work and they could see them grow. So they're learning about nature, but they're enjoying it. And that was a lot of fun. Um, and the very first book that I published, the first three you cannot get. They were horrible. I had written these stories. My daughter tried to get me to publish this one. I thought, I wrote it for your kids. Nobody else is going to want it. So I'd written some other stories in the meantime, and I thought, okay, I'll just put them up on Amazon. I didn't have them edited because I didn't know you needed an editor for books. I thought that was just for magazines and newspaper. They were horrible. The one didn't even have chapters in it. It was just one full story. And so once I started learning a little bit more about what it means to write and that I don't have to have English because that's what an editor is for. They will do the spelling and the grammar and help me get it correctly, make sure it flows right. That took a lot of pressure off of me. But those books are getting redone right now and they will come out later. But I took them off of Amazon as soon as I could. Once I realized all my mistakes, and it's like, okay. But, the first anthology I did, I was in somebody else's, and it was wonderful. You just all throughout the year, she would have a prompt, and you would somehow incorporate that prompt into your story, 80 to, 100 words, that was it. Real short stories, and that was so much fun, and seeing the the stories that other people wrote with the exact same prompt, how our minds think so differently, was so exciting to me. And her book also went to a nonprofit. And I thought, man, that's just the coolest thing ever. And so I did a book. It didn't go to a nonprofit, but it was about modern day miracles that happen to ordinary people. And that's pretty much the title of it. And that was so much fun. I got to know these other women who had written the stories for the book. In fact, we still talk with each other, and that was 3 years ago. And and it was just amazing to see this whole thing develop. I learned so much. There was, still always mistakes, but there are when you're learning something and you learn from those mistakes. And then I was at a restaurant with my husband. We were looking for a house. We decided this is where we were going to stay for now. His job transferred here to Texas. And we're in this restaurant, and I see this huge mural of this hippo with a train and a river. And I thought, I just have to write a story. So I tell him real quick what I want to eat. He orders it for me. I am just writing the story like crazy. And he's almost finished eating by the time I get done, and it's like, "Okay, I have to hurry up and eat." And as we're going home, I'm thinking, "I really need to see if there is a story behind this this mural that was up there." And there was. It was legend. They're not sure how much of the story is true. The gentleman who wrote the story that was online, his name is Mike Fowler, and I was at the town of Hutto where this happened, and he stopped by my booth, and he said, "Thank you so much for turning this into a children's book." I was so touched. I mean, this really was his story. We were so close on everything. I only had to change a couple of things in my story to match his, and it was wonderful, and to have him compliment me on that, and then later invite me into his home and ask about working on a project together. It was just amazing. So you never know when you take that first step that is sometimes the scariest step. It's like you're at the bottom of a mountain, and this mountain looks like, how am I ever going to climb it? Well, you do it by taking one step. And it doesn't even have to be in the right direction. You just take one step, and then you go from there, and you'll find out which path is right to take or not. Um, but it's getting through that one step, and this may be just a little off of the question that you asked me, but I've had a couple of people come to me who have had really tough stories to tell, and it's their own experience with possibly family members, members in the community, and they go, "How do I tell my story without them finding out?" And it's like, well, if you tell your story, they're probably gonna figure it out. But what do you do with that? How do you be strong enough to tell the story so that others who may be in that situation can see that there is a way out of it, that they don't have to stay there? And that comes from some personal struggles and questions you have to ask yourself. But there are ways to do it. And you just have to be ready to say, you know what, this was my story. You can leave their names out of it, but this is my story. And I want to help other people who might be in this situation to know that they don't have to stay there, that there is hope and they can get out of it.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your life, your experience with us. One thing stood out for me. You said that you were writing these beautiful stories, but you thought that only your grandchildren will be interested in that.
Yeah.
And that is the situation for many people. They have this, I'll call self doubts about the great work that they have put in there. And currently, I'm helping women 40 plus who have these amazing projects and ideas that they've been keeping for years. Look through those ideas and pick one project that they can finish.
Yes. Yes.
Now,
And only one. One is
only
enough.
one, because
Yeah.
once you do one, you get that momentum to
Yes.
do more. You'll be able to say, okay, like you said, you're getting data, you're getting feedback from people. You don't know what works, and it could be a total fail. I mean, I've failed a million times over, but failure is good because at least it shows you that that doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
it's
try
okay.
something else. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Failure is not failure. Failure is actually learning. It's
it's
a lesson
learning,
to learn. So
collecting
there's
data.
the only failure is if you do nothing or if you quit.
If you quit,
And
yeah,
then
that
then
is the
you
thing.
then
Yeah,
it's not going anywhere because it's got to come from you.
it has to come. So, with such a prolific writing career, how do you decide which ideas are worth pursuing and which ones you just want to let go for now?
You have to have a coach. And I'll tell you why, and this is true. I just gave a speech last December where it talked about where I talked about I had a coach that I hired to help me get a project going to find out where I really needed to go, what I was doing. And he says, "Well, what are you working on right now?" And I am not lying. I kid you not. I stopped at 27 projects that I was doing. And he's like, "Yeah, that's way too many." And I didn't even realize that I was involved in that many. I was in uh, 5 other anthologies, 3 of what were just wrapping up, so those went away really fast. The other 2 finally did wrap up, and those went away, plus my own projects that I had going on. And he says, "Okay, you have to pick one." And sometimes that's really hard, but boy, did I find the value in having one project to concentrate on. And this year, I'm I'm looking at the things that I've put on the back burner. What do I want to do with them? Of course, now I have like 10 things that I could do, but you have to look at what can I do right now that is going to get me forward so I can do these other projects. And and that's sometimes that's really tough, but just kinda list out, what do I want to have? What's this project? Why am I doing this? Is this a project that other people are going to want? Because we can have this huge burning desire inside of us to do something, but maybe others aren't ready for it yet. The other thing you need to look for is when you're doing a project, and I'm in the middle of Baxter's Heart right now. I have the book completely done. But what I want done with it is something different than I've ever done before, and this is really where my coach is helping me too, is I wrote this book to help families, children understand that when there's a loss of a pet in the home and you have other pets in the home, those pets are going to mourn the loss of the one that passed away. That was the whole purpose of the story, and it came from a personal experience in our own home. But when I had the beta readers reading my book, it turned into something totally different. I didn't realize how many people did not know what to do with the loss of a pet. I mean, most of the adults were like, "Yeah, I understand death. I understand that it's gone." But well, I'll tell the story. One of my beta readers, she said, 2 weeks before I read your story, I pulled over on the freeway and I just started bawling. I had just lost my dog after several years, and I just could not stand the thought of my dog being in that cold, dark ground. Now, I understand. The dog doesn't know that it's a cold, dark ground. He's gone. But there was just something inside of her that wouldn't let it go. And I think part of that is the love that we have for that pet. So she read my book and she said, "Thank you. I have such peace now." And it's a very short story. I mean, I don't even, I think it's 32 pages because I wrote it with the intention of a parent helping a young child read the story or an older child reading it themselves. And it's beautifully illustrated. Oh, wow. I found this amazing illustrator on Fiverr who's in another country, but she just made the pictures come to life. They're just so real. And I have to tell you, I know I'm kind of off topic right at the moment,
Oh,
but
that's good. That's good. It's part of it.
yeah,
Go on.
but but the wonderful thing about writing children's books that are illustrated, the illustrations need to tell the story. The words need to tell the story, but when you put them together, they just blend the story into this beautiful, amazing work of art. And so your illustrations kind of need to stand on their own for those kids that can't read yet,
Yeah.
but the words need to enhance, or the illustrations need to enhance your words for those that can read. So, but going back to her story, she she was just so thrilled to know that her dog is somewhere else. So from Baxter's Heart, I have there's a series of books where I go into Max's parrot, because at the end of Baxter's Heart, Max and his friend talk about his parrots and how one of them passed away. And parrots are very much united together, that when one goes, the other parent can really start some destructive and self-destructive habits because they are so lonely, like people are. And so we address those issues, come at it from more of a veterinarian professional point of view because his uncle is this veterinarian who handles exotic animals, and he's taught him how this all works. And then we go into the third book where Max and his friend are at school, and they have classroom pets, and one of the pets die. So the teacher incorporates that into, well, what do you believe? And so we talk about all these different beliefs, from going beyond the veil, from crossing the rainbow bridge, from flying over the rainbow, from reincarnation, from nothing happens, all these different things that kids would come up to present different points of view. And then the next book is going to talk about reptiles and snakes, all the things that aren't your typical pet. You find them in pet stores, but they're
Yeah.
not dogs and cats and birds or fish, things like
Yeah.
that. They'll go in there too. Um, and then the last book closes it out with a farm cat. Now, the farm cat does not pass away, but there is a farm animal that has been a part of all these other farm animals' lives, and it passes away. And the cat kind of teaches the other animals how to behave at a funeral, what to do. And this still pulls back to Baxter's heart for things that happened in our own lives, with our own service dog and with one of our other pets. So it's really some fun, creative stories. I don't have them all written yet. I'm in the middle of the classroom pets, but I tell you, between this illustrator who just energizes me to do more on the stories because I think of how she's going to do these illustrations, it just makes it amazing and fun and wonderful. Plus, finding out that I am giving people hope and a way to deal with something that has really affected them personally, gives me great joy to be able to be that bridge, I guess, to fill that gap that is missing.
Thank you very much for sharing.
Let me guess. You are a woman over 40 and you want to write your first children's book? Am I a mind reader? Absolutely not. But I am obsessed with helping women like you launch their first children's book in 90 days. Yes, you heard me right. In 90 days. No tech experience? No worries. Feeling too old? We'll talk about that. Worried your story isn't good enough? We'll talk about this one too. Inside my membership, you get personalized coaching for 90 days, plus support inside a private community of women just like you. We do this in 4 easy steps. First, you become the project manager of your own book. Second, you learn how to manage your creative team, your editors, your illustrators, and your designers. Third, I walk you through self-publishing click by click without overwhelm. And finally, we talk about marketing and book launching, so your book doesn't stay hidden forever. This is risk-free, supportive, and designed to help you turn your story into a legacy. So, if becoming a published author of your own children's book has been on your heart for years, please don't ignore this again. Click on the link below this video because your book is waiting for you. Let's get to work. How has your definition of success changed from your early writing years to now?
I think I needed to find out what success really meant. And success means something different to everybody.
Yes.
So you cannot, they talk about comparing yourself with others, imposter syndrome. No, I'm not good enough. I'm not doing what they're doing. Well, you're not supposed to do what someone else does. You're supposed to do what you do. And that's the important thing. And I never really started comparing myself to others till I saw others comparing themselves to others. And I don't know why I thought I needed to. And it's like, okay, I need to stop. This is not productive. And it's not. So you have to define right away what is going to be success. So if you're working on a project, what do you want the end of that project to be? And remember, you just put one project, not all of them. But what is going to be the end? What do you want the final of that project to be? Like me, for Baxter's Heart, I consider success when somebody has the book and says, thank you. That's the biggest success for me there. There's success in my whole writing career. I've got, over, gosh, I think I have 30 #1 bestsellers on Amazon now. I've got awards, and I think if I'm going to go for something big, maybe I'll go for New York Times bestseller next. I don't know. But sometimes just hearing thank you for writing this story is the best success I could get for anything, because that's what it comes down to. It's for the person reading the book. Um, Although I have to say, I was at the doctor's yesterday and I saw 2 of my children's books on their counter in the waiting room. And I was like, yay. I was like, that was,
Success.
that was
Well
pretty
done.
exciting.
So what role does discipline play in creativity for you? And how do you balance structure with inspiration? Some people are scared of structure.
Oh, wow.
What do you think of structure? Does it help you with inspiration?
You have to have some structure. Yes. That's why you get a coach to help keep you
Yeah.
on course. But I have to tell you, I have ADHD and structure is not my forte. Um, that's why I have 27 projects or other things. But I'll tell you what I do have that helps me. Even though I have a calendar on my computer, I have a calendar that I actually write everything down in. So it's
Yeah.
kind of double doing it. Um, and when I quit using my calendar to write things in, I actually do miss things, and it's okay. I'm really hard on myself if I miss something because I feel like I've let somebody down. Well, maybe you have, but life goes on. Get over it and keep going. That's the biggest thing. Realize, okay, you made a mistake. Do what you can to not make that mistake again. Even
Yeah.
if you make that mistake again, just keep going. We're all human beings, and if for some reason you can't get something scheduled right, leave it alone. It's not time for that yet. That's the one thing you really have to be aware of, is that there is a time and season for everything. And if you're working hard and you're fighting it and things are just not going, leave it alone. Maybe it just needs a couple of days. Maybe you're trying to go in a direction that is not the right direction. You just don't realize it. So just back off and give yourself grace. Please give yourself grace, because we can be so hard on ourselves, and we need to be our best advocate, not our worst enemy.
Thank you very much for sharing that. I love structure too. And yeah, I believe in treating myself with some self-compassion because
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah, if you are not compassionate to yourself, I don't know who else would be
Yeah.
with you. So yes, and we put in a lot of work, so we should treat
Yes.
ourselves with so much grace and
And what you said was very true. If we're being gracious and compassionate with ourselves, why should anybody else be that way?
no
We
one.
set the example.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you treat yourself badly, nobody else is going to treat you well. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
So in seasons of life that feel overwhelming, which we all go through sometimes, what practices help you stay grounded and aligned with your work and your purpose?
Oh, that is a really great question, because you're right. We all go through that. I remember the very first time I went through this horrible struggle, and I took everything off my walls, all my sticky notes, all my vision boards, everything. I just took it all off. I did not throw it away. I put it in a little notebook and just kept it there. And then I started bawling. Now, my husband usually left me alone when I was doing my work because, it's my work and I do whatever. But he heard me crying and he came out and he goes, "What's wrong?" I said, "I am such a failure. I am." And this is 6 months after I started, from the very beginning, before I even knew I was writing. I think I'd just barely taken my books down at that point. And he goes, "What do you mean you're a failure?" I go, "I am not where I want to be. I see what everybody else is doing, and I'm not anywhere there." There's that comparison again. And he says, "Stop it." He goes, "Look how far you have come already. Look at what you're doing right now. And it's only been 6 months." And so he had to put perspective into my line of sight. And that's a very useful tool you need. You need perspective. And if you're not where you want to be, take a break, find out why you aren't there. And so I did that whole first week. After I took everything down, I said, why did I start this in the beginning? What was I after? And am I doing that now? Or had I gotten distracted and went down one of those rabbit holes they talk about, point of no return, and what was going on? And I realized I had really gone way off from what I originally wanted to do. And that was to write books and do it very well. I got in a program that talked about running a business, because writing your books, you need to market them. You need to let people know about them. So you do need to have a little business sense. And I had none at all. Didn't even know how to keep books for a business, which is a little different than doing it for yourself. Um, so there was a huge, huge learning curve that I'd been going through. And I didn't give myself grace to know that I was learning. This was a learning process. And I still think these first 3 years, was a learning process. And once you realize that you're learning things you've never known before, and sometimes you have to learn them the hard way, because, some of us are like me, oh, you mean I could have done this before? It's like, yeah. And sometimes it was right in front of me and I just couldn't see it. So that's
Yeah.
why you have coaches. That's why you have mentors, so they can help see what's right in front of you. So if you're not finding it, they can say, hey, but look at this. And it's like, oh, okay. So what I do now is, if I'm getting frustrated, I stop and I look to see, have I gotten off course? Did I start going into something that I shouldn't have gone into yet? Am I getting the cart ahead of the horse, which is easy for me to do because I get so excited about what I'm doing and I want to get to this step, but maybe I forgot to take a few other steps, like walk through the gate instead of jump over the fence and get caught on it and try to have to struggle for that. But it's those little steps, as annoying as they seem to be, as much as you want to just leap forward, those little steps set up a very solid groundwork for you, and you don't want to miss those. So stay in your lane, take those little steps, because they help you get to the bigger steps. And when you get to this big obstacle that's in front of you, stop and think, okay, it's like a big boulder in the middle of the road, straight down the hill on this side, straight up the hill on this side. What am I going to do? Can I skinny through over on this side? Do I have dynamite in my backpack I can just throw in there and blow it up? Or is there someone who says, hey, let's just push it over the hill and it'll land in the river below? There's nobody there. Or climb over it. What can you do in the situation? And if you're not sure what to do, ask others. Absolutely ask others what to do, because you will get through there. And maybe sometimes you need to just stop and take a rest, because I think we get so involved in what we're doing, we're afraid if we stop, we're going to lose momentum. You don't lose momentum. What you do is you gain better perspective.
Yes.
And that makes all the difference.
Thank you very much for sharing. Yeah. So besides writing books, you are also a leadership coach. So let's borrow some experience from you. If someone could only adopt one habit to help them lead better at work, at home, or in their community, what would you recommend?
Listen to others. If you're only going to develop one habit, you need to listen to others. Listen to what they're asking, even if they may not be asking it. Listen to what their needs are. The best thing you can do is help fill somebody's need, whether it's through writing, through podcasting, through your business, whatever it is that you've got. Because if there's a need out there and you fulfill it, you've got it. The worst thing they can do is try to push us onto somebody else, because they're not going to be receptive to it. But if you're fulfilling that need, they're going to say, wow, you really helped me. Hey, I know this person over here who needs help. Or, hey, this person helped me. I know they can help you. It's going to go from there. When you're helping people, you're serving them. And that doesn't mean you're a servant, you're a slave, anything like that. But you're helping them meet a need that they can't meet on their own. That is the best thing ever. And everything just flows from that.
Thank you. There's one thing you said: listen to others, even the thing they didn't say. I love that, because sometimes we struggle to tell people how we are feeling inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say something, but the main thing they want is hidden beneath that one sentence that has been said. And it takes a lot of skill to know what was said and
Yeah.
what is said.
And you know what? I don't know if it's skill, but it is, because just about everything we do can be learned. Listening can be learned. Like you said, it's a skill. So what you do is you ask questions maybe, or maybe you ask one question, but if you realize they're struggling answering it, then there's something there. And it's okay to learn skills, learn how to listen, learn how to um ask questions. And everyone says, oh, ask the right questions. Well, sometimes you don't know what the right question is until you start asking some other questions. And all of a sudden the person goes, okay, I can trust you. Because sometimes the things that we're hiding inside, we're afraid that we're going to be criticized, that we're going to be thought less of, that we're going to be, oh, I don't want to hang around you if that's what's going on with you. And it's really not true. Um, there are some people who will do that, but those who won't, those are the ones who you want around you anyways, Who are the top 5? This was one of the first things that was presented to me. Who are the top 5 people in your life? And are those top 5 people helping you or hurting you or keeping you stagnant? And it's really kind of tough questions to ask, because they may be family members, or they may be someone who you really care deeply about, but they're really not that good to be around all the time. So you don't have to get rid of them. You don't have to say, oh, I'm sorry, sister, I can't talk to you anymore, or whatever. But what you do is you do distance yourself a little bit, and you find 5 people who are encouraging, who are helpful, who lift you up,
Yeah.
and who you lift them up. And wow, that's just amazing. And it's a little uncomfortable, but if you're doing uncomfortable things as far as growing, it's
Yeah.
the best. It is
Yeah.
just the best.
Uncomfortable is growth.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Now, if
Thank
it's
you very much.
uncomfortable because it's really uncomfortable, go away for a while and maybe, come back. Maybe something you shouldn't be doing. But yeah, taking that first step is uncomfortable because you're going into something you've never done before. Taking that class, writing that first page, finding a coach, and you don't have to just take somebody because they say they're a coach. If you have a coach and they're not really helping you, you don't feel like they're doing what you think they should, it's okay to say, look, this isn't working out for me. I want to go see who else I can find. And if their feelings are hurt, I'm sorry that their feelings are hurt. Um, but they should really want the best for you. And if they're trying to make you stay just because their feelings are hurt, that's really not a coach for you, because they're seeking their own reward, not a reward for you. And that
Yeah.
sounds harsh, but we've got one life to live here. We need to make sure that we do the best with it. And sometimes that means we have to let some people go.
Thank you. So where can this audience find you?
Oh, you can find me at lskirkpatrick.com. You can also find me at wisdomonthefrontporch.com, which is my podcast, but I'll still answer you. Yeah, so whether it's doing a podcast, writing your book, needing coaching on what to do and how to get there, or maybe you just need a couple of, I just have this one question about writing. I can't seem to get an answer from anybody else. Just send me a message, and I don't mind helping out. But I love
Thank,
to coach too. That's so much fun.
thank you very much for coming to the show, and your links to your website will be put in this episode show notes. Thank you very much, LS. This
Oh,
conversation,
thank you.
thank you. So this conversation has been both grounded and inspiring. Thank you for reminding us that leadership isn't about doing more, it's about showing up well, consistently, and with intention. And for everyone, if today's episode encouraged you, reflect on what has been said, creativity, take a moment to sit with that and choose one small action you can take today to move yourself forward. Thanks for tuning in to the Minute Mastery podcast. If you have found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who could use more time in their day. And remember to subscribe, check out the links in this episode show notes, and leave us a review. Until next time, you are in control of your time and you've got this.